Good morning, everyone. Welcome on my YouTube channel. Today, I will discuss about the CSF. What is the CSF? How the CSF is formed? What is the composition of the CSF? And how the CSF is absorbed? How the CSF flows from the lateral to third ventricle and third ventricle to the fourth ventricle, and the different clinical term clinical associated with the CSF, just like the hydrocephalus. Hydrocephalus, it is of two types, the internal hydrocephalus and the external hydrocephalus. And what is the CSF? It is the clear colorless fluid. The CSF, that is the cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid. It means this CSF, it is present in the brain and also in the spinal cord. Around the spinal cord, around the brain. The brain has the three layers. We know that is the dura mater, the outer layer. Then the arachnoid layer, and then the pia mater. And in between the arachnoid and the pia mater, there is the space, that is the subarachnoid space. This CSF, cerebrospinal fluid, it is present in this subarachnoid space and also present in the different ventricles of the brain. In the previous classes, I have discussed the lateral ventricle, also the third ventricle, and also the fourth ventricle, the floor of the fourth ventricle. These lateral ventricle, these are situated in the two cerebral hemisphere, the left and the right cerebral hemisphere, and two cerebral hemisphere are connected by the corpus callosum. We know the corpus callosum? The corpus callosum which connect the two cerebral hemisphere, and we take a section, that is the sagittal section. We take a sagittal section, and after taking the sagittal section, we see the corpus callosum, the septum pellucidum, and the fornix, the interthalamic adhesion, and the interthalamic adhesion. We see the different structure which are present, which form the boundary of the third ventricle, the anterior wall, the posterior wall, and also the inferior wall. In the fourth ventricle, I have discussed in the previous classes about the floor of the fourth ventricle, and in the floor of the fourth ventricle, which is present in between the pons and the medulla and the cerebellum, and the roof of the fourth ventricle, which is formed by the superior medullary velum. The hydrocephalus, it is the internal and the external hydrocephalus. And the lumbar puncture, it is done at the L3 and the L4 space, or the L4 or L5 space. This lumbar puncture is not done at the above the L3 level, because the spinal cord ends at the level of L1. So to protect the spinal cord, we do the lumbar puncture at the L3 and L4 space, or L4 L5 space, and this L3 L4 space can be palpated. The patient को हम लोग या तो लेफ्ट लैटरल पोजीशन में लेटा देते हैं या राइट लैटरल पोजीशन में हम लोग उसे लेटा देते हैं, और हम लोग लंबर पंक्चर करते हैं. L3 L4 स्पेस को हम लोग आइडेंटिफाई करते हैं एट द लेवल ऑफ द iliac crest, and this lumbar puncture is done for giving the different anesthetic drug, just like the ketamine. In the LSCS, we do the lumbar puncture, and this CSF fluid is very diagnostic. It contains the protein, it contains the glucose, the potassium, and a large amount of the sodium chloride. Diagnostic in various diseases. We see the color of the CSF fluid, the level of the protein, level of the sodium chloride. And in different disease, the composition of this CSF differ, just like the viral meningitis, just like the encephalitis. In the next video, I will discuss about the detail of the CSF. Please share, subscribe and like my video. Thank you.